yeah. I have a couple of things to ask about. You mentioned the carbon tax and the carbon tax analysis, that the impact will be $1,400 on a GDP per capita. Is that figure correct? Did I hear that correctly?
GDP per capita.
Pardon?
GDP per capita.
Yes, per capita.
GDP. Yeah.
So that's about $50 billion based on the calculation, which is equal about 2.5% of the GDP.
Let me just clarify that point. The study that we did a while ago on the climate change and the impact of a tax was actually, that impact came from not directly from us. It came from the Roundtable on Environment and Economy, and it was based on a hypothetical situation. Now, the current announcement that the government made on the tax that they are planning to impose, that we don't really have enough information exactly how that's going to work out. It all depends on how the provinces are going to react to this, how they're going to recycle the money that they're going to receive from this, and that, with all that information, then we can actually sit down and measure the overall impact of that change. Right now, it would be very difficult to actually pinpoint a number and say, well, that would be the impact.
I do appreciate that, and I know, I agree with you on this, but if this figure, I made some kind of calculation, I mean, is not to the point where I do have that time and the ability to do so, but this is a very scary number. We're talking $50 billion on the size of the Canadian economy. It's a huge, regardless of how the money is going to be circulated, because we know that, I mean, some of that could be wasted here and there, and that, we could not benefit whatsoever from it, rather than it's an imposing of taxation on Canadian. The other question is, on a CPP, also, you mentioned the $6 billion figure, which equal to 0.25% of the GDP. Economically, I call this artificial growth of the GDP rate, because it's we're collecting extra taxes from people, and then we put it in the economy and we call it the growth in the GDP. Am I correct?
Sorry, I didn't call it growth in GDP. I was just talking about the amount relative to the GDP. I wasn't saying that this is going to increase growth in GDP. I was just saying that this is equal to 0.25% of GDP.
Beautiful. That's and thank you. I just want to clarify that. Now, CPP is going to do, I mean, the $6 billion is on one side, and then we have job reduction, wage freezing, and then maybe reluctance on the appetite of consumers to spend because of the less income at the end of the day. Have these figures or have these factors been calculated into the overall picture of the impact?
All these, as we mentioned in the report, the CPP impact is already taken into account in our baseline projection. So it is all there. That's right.
Okay. Do I have more time?
Yes, you do.
Thank you very much. You're really generous.
I know. All kindness and heart.
Okay. A question, a very common question. I believe we asked that question before. Do we have a revenue problem, or do we have a spending problem in Canada?
I don't know whether we have a revenue problem or a spending problem, but we do the projection, and the bottom line is the fiscal deficit or fiscal surplus, and that's what really matters at the end. Do we have a revenue problem? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I don't know whether we have a revenue problem or a spending problem. These are decisions by the government to spend money and raise taxes in the way that they wish to do so. And I can't say whether it's good or bad in that sense.
Thank you.
You done?
Yeah.